You know how sometimes you read something and it just instantly paints a picture in your mind or makes you feel a specific way? Well, that's the magic of figurative language. It's the secret toolkit we all use to give our words some real color, emotion, and punch, turning plain old statements into something you'll actually remember. Okay, so when you hear this, you know the person isn't actually about to eat a horse, right? It's what we call hyperbole, a big intentional exaggeration. And why do we use it? Because it doesn't just tell you someone's hungry, it makes you feel how hungry they are. It paints this vivid, almost funny picture that saying, I'm very hungry, just doesn't. And this brings up a really cool question. If we're just trying to communicate, why not just say exactly what we mean all the time? Well, the answer is that language is for so much more than just spitting out facts. It's about connecting with people, about creating these shared experiences. And figurative language, that's the key that unlocks that whole deeper level. All right, let's kick things off with the absolute foundation, comparison. Our brains are hardwired to get a grip on new things by connecting them to stuff we already know. So these next few tools are all about building those little mental bridges for your audience. First up is the metaphor, and this one's a biggie. It is the most direct way to compare two things. A metaphor doesn't mess around saying one thing is like another. It goes for it and says one thing is another. And that forces this really powerful, instant connection in our minds. Just think about this for a second. Time isn't literally some guy in a ski mask, right? But calling it a thief tells you so much so fast. It steals our precious moments, it works silently, and we usually don't even realize what we've lost until it's way too late. It's such a powerful image packed into just 3 words. Next, we've got the simile, which you can think of as the metaphor's slightly more polite cousin. The key here is to look for 2 little words, like or as. Where a metaphor just makes a bold statement, a simile is more of a gentle suggestion. It's asking you to see the similarity, not forcing you to accept it. So, by comparing a smile to the sun, we're not just saying it was bright. We're actually borrowing all the other amazing things about the sun, Its warmth, its life-giving energy, its glow. That's how a simple simile creates a way richer picture than if you just said she had a nice smile. Okay, so we've talked about what words mean. Now, let's talk about how they sound. The next set of tools is all about the music of language. They appeal directly to our ears to create a rhythm, set a mood, and make phrases just plain unforgettable. I bet you know this one even if you don't recognize the name alliteration. It's that repetition of sounds at the start of words that makes phrases so darn catchy. You see it in brand names, it's the heart of every tongue twister, and it's all about creating this verbal rhythm that just sticks in your brain. Go on. Try saying this one out loud. That repeating P sound is just impossible to ignore, isn't it? It makes the whole phrase feel kind of bouncy and fun, and it forces you to notice the sound of the words themselves. This is language literally acting like music. Okay, this one might be the most fun of the bunch. Onomatopoeia is simply when a word sounds like the thing it's describing. It's like a direct shortcut from the words on a page to a real-life sound in your head. See, you don't just read the word buzzed, you can almost hear it. The word itself mimics the sound of the action. This pulls you right into the scene, making the whole thing feel way more vivid and real. You're not just being told about the bees, you're right there with them. Sometimes the best way to make a point is to smash 2 opposite ideas together. Our next category is all about contrast, about creating a collision of ideas to build tension, show how complex something is, and make a point that's absolutely impossible to miss. Antithesis is all about balance and opposition. You take 2 totally conflicting ideas and you put them side by side, usually in the same kind of sentence structure. That parallel setup makes the contrast between them feel even sharper and more meaningful. I mean, this is probably one of the most famous lines in all of literature, right? Dickens' perfectly balanced phrases force you to hold 2 completely contradictory ideas in your mind at the exact same time. It immediately tells you just how complicated the world he's describing really is. It's not just one thing or the other, it's everything, all at once. So, if antithesis is a whole balanced sentence, an oxymoron is like a tiny 2-word bomb of contrast. It grabs 2 words that have absolutely no business being together and smashes them into a single, thought-provoking phrase. How can silence be deafening? It sounds wrong, but you know exactly what that feels like. That phrase perfectly captures the feeling of a silence so heavy and so intense that it's all you can focus on. The contradiction isn't a mistake, it's the whole point. It creates this incredibly precise and powerful image. All right, our last group of tools are, well, they're the clever ones. They work because they depend on the audience being in on the joke. These devices need us to make connections, to understand double meanings, and to tap into all that cultural knowledge we share. Ah, the pun, the tool that makes some people groan, and others, well, me, laugh out loud. A pun works by playing on a word that has two different meanings, or on words that sound the same but mean different things. It's a fun little linguistic trick. So the whole joke here hangs on that one little word, dough. On one hand, it's what a baker makes. On the other hand, it's slang for money. The humor comes from that sudden little flick of a switch in your brain between those two meanings. One word doing double duty. An illusion is basically cultural shorthand. Instead of having to explain a really big, complex idea, you can just reference something, a story, a person, a moment in history that you know your audience will probably get. It packs a ton of meaning into a very small package. By calling someone a Romeo, you don't have to explain that he's a passionate, romantic, maybe a little impulsive young lover. No, the name Romeo does all the heavy lifting for you. It instantly brings up the whole story and personality of Shakespeare's famous character. So let's tie all of this together. What's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this even matter? Well, figurative language isn't just fluffy decoration. It's a core part of communicating effectively. It adds emotion, it creates those vivid pictures in our heads, it makes ideas stick, and it lets us share really complex thoughts with just a few perfect words. At the end of the day, these are all just tools in your personal communication toolbox. Being able to spot them definitely makes you a sharper reader and a smarter listener. But learning how to use them, well, that makes you a more powerful and persuasive communicator. So the only real question left is, what pictures are you going to go out and paint with your words?